Hey everyone, I've been using Muc-Off's Wet Lube chain lubricant for the last 2,500 kilometers of bicycle riding. That's about, I don't know, 1,600 miles, something like that. Don't go too hard on the conversion here. And this distance was traveled in the Pacific Northwest in torrential downpours. That means 1,200 millimeters of rain at sea level, or about 48 inches of rain. Higher elevations get more. Temperature, when these rains come down in 9 months of the year, usually hovers around 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, or goes up to 5 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees Celsius, so about 50 degrees Fahrenheit tops, something like that. So those are the conditions. How has Muc-Off's Wet Lube been working for me? It works as advertised, but in short, I don't like the product, and I'm not going to be using it. This is the last coat that I have on the chain with this product. Let's take a look at some of these claims here. Race quality lubricant. That's right, that checks out. I'm going to explain how that's experienced. And it says ultra durable. That's where the problems are to some degree. Long distance lubrication and protection. So the ultra durable means that it doesn't wash off with the rain, it stays on the chain. That's a good thing, right? Yes, it is a good thing. However, there are limitations to it. With that said, the lubricant is liquid. That's where the problems are. So let me just shake it a little bit, maybe closer to the microphone. Okay, it's a liquid. It doesn't run like water. It's a little thicker than that, maybe 10-20 times thicker. So not exactly ketchup, but something like not too thick syrup, something. Okay, so it's between water and ketchup, so 10-20 times thicker. But I'm gonna go to the lab and try to measure the viscosity of it at different temperatures. So but that's going to be a comparison among other lubricants as well that I've tried, so that's a different video. So this being a liquid, what happens is that as you drive through rain, the particles in the rain, microscopic particles as well as small grits of sand and abrasive particles, they get embedded in the liquid. The liquid doesn't wash away. That's good. It keeps the chain lubricated, yeah, to some degree, but it gets saturated with the solid grit particles in the rain and whatever the tire picks up and splashes everywhere. So when you see on a bicycle dirt spots, you know, when water dries and then there is dirt, so those are the solid particles that are left behind after rain, all of that stuff. So some of these microscopic little particles that make the deposits there after, you can see where the drops dried. So those particles get embedded in the chain, in the lubricant film that's supposed to be lubricating the chain, and is not lubricating it anymore. The lubricant film gets saturated with that muck, with the particles, solid particles, and the lubricant film becomes even thicker than it is now. A thicker lubricant is harder to drive or transmit power with. It needs more effort to pedal, and it becomes harder and harder to the point that sometimes although I just parked the bicycle here after a brief ride, so it doesn't quite show that way, but sometimes when I move the bicycle forward, the chain becomes so stiff with the embedded particles in the lubricant film that it's like a push rod. It's driving the chain ring and the crank forward. I don't know if it's gonna do it. Yeah, not this time. That doesn't do it. Now it's too fresh. It needs to cool down a little bit, and then it's gonna do it. It's gonna stiffen up, and it's gonna do it. And it's really bad. So the chain is not squealy or squeaky. It's not gonna do that ever. But this is after 300 kilometers of riding. They get saturated with the embedded solid particles of microscopic sand, grit, and dirt particles that it gets really, really bad, requiring a whole lot more effort to pedal than is necessary. So, race quality lubricant, yes, when it's fresh, it's low viscosity, it's liquid enough, is a really nice lubricant. Does it stay on in rain? Yes, for the length of one race. 100 kilometers, 150, maybe 200 is pushing it. So I've been using this for 350, so why don't I clean it off earlier and sooner? I hate cleaning this thick crud off. It's so thick. If I put the chain solvent or chain chemical on it, a chain cleaner chemical on it, it still doesn't come off without mechanical aid, some kind of scraping and scrubbing and brushing, or some kind of mechanical aid. It's so thick and it adheres to the metal surfaces. It made all of the sprocket teeth uniformly black and ugly and disgusting. So all of the sprocket teeth on the cassette need to be cleaned. And if I can get you some close-up, some of these you can see how some of these clumps of embedded particles still hang on to the chain, and they don't fling off. And not that any chain would ever be self-cleaning, but how the liquid film gets saturated is spectacularly bad on this type of chain, or with this type of lubricant, sorry. And let me see, I'm just trying to get a good shot at it. You can see how it looks like it's gonna be scrubbing and scraping to remove all this. So what do I do about it? Because I really don't like the fact that the driving resistance is exponentially increasing and increasing as it gets saturated, and I really don't enjoy cleaning it because it's a major amount of work. So instead I use something completely different, this stuff. Chain wax made by some completely different people. So wax means that this is a solid. It dries or cures or sets as a solid on the chain. So how is a solid less power, requires less power to pedal than a liquid lubricant? Well, the liquid is easier to pedal when the liquid film is fresh and is not saturated with crud. But as it does get saturated, this has benefits because particles don't get embedded in the wax. They can get on its surface, but they don't get into it too deeply, as within just 300 kilometers. Whereas this is useless after about 150. This is still working well after 150. Also doesn't wash away, and more importantly, it's the effort required to power the bicycle is initially a little more, but if you can imagine the liquid would be going up and up and up, increasing on a graph. With this one, it requires higher, but does not increase that much. It's kind of not a straight line or whatever, because this also wears away, and this also gets eventually saturated, but needs a lot more time to saturate this because this is a solid. So particles would need to be pressed into it with effort or force in order to saturate this, whereas the liquid just soaks up everything effortlessly. That's the problem with this liquid. Yeah, I don't like it. I'm not going to use it again because I hate cleaning it off so frequently. Basically, 300 kilometers or 200 kilometers, that every week. I don't want to do it every week. I really hate doing it every week. I've done 9 months of it for Doro testing. Yeah, I think I'm done.